This title's kind of misleading. It makes it sound like I've been traveling for 10 years straight, and that's definitely not true. But over the last 10 years, traveling has kind of been my priority. And within that 10 years, I've traveled for about 2 years. And I'll just list everything on the screen of where I've been and what I've done. So feel free to pause it if you want to see. But this video is kind of just about how it's changed my life. I think maybe a good place to start is just talk about kind of who I was before I started traveling, which was in 2015, 10 years ago. So I'm 38 right now. I was 28 then, and I had never really done any traveling. Certainly no solo traveling. I felt like I was kind of leading a very boring life. And I think in childhood, I always wanted to have this adventurous life or something. I think a lot of boys do. But I think that age is interesting. Around the mid-20s, you start to like see a lot of your friends getting married and people are like settling down, as they say. I felt like the opportunity for me to travel was very much a fleeting thing. To me, it felt like if you're not going to travel now, then you're never going to. And I wish I could go back and tell myself that that's wrong. You can travel at any age. You don't have to be in your mid-20s or whatever to start traveling. And I didn't start traveling until I was 28. But I think even going back a little further, even to like age like 23, 24, I really wanted to, but I was just scared. I spent like 5 years being scared and putting it off and kind of just going through the regular life, going out drinking on the weekends and just working. Before I started traveling, I had a fairly good job. I was working as a video editor, which is what I went to school to do. And, I was pursuing a passion, but it just kind of was feeling a little stale. I think I was just really at a point in my life when I really wanted to see some change. And I think I'm just the type of person that has to make drastic changes all at once. I can't like make incremental changes and then, do things over the long term. I have to like completely throw myself out of my circumstances, like, going out and trying to do the whole Appalachian Trail. That's when I started that trail. I had only done like 1 or maybe 2 backpacking trips my entire life, just completely throwing myself into a new environment and trying to learn as I went. And it worked out. I feel like that first solo trip is the one that requires the most amount of courage to do. I don't know. It's like, like courage, like bravery, like I act like I'm brave because I just went out and did these trips. I'm not trying to act like that, but you have to be able to take that leap of faith. You're a completely new person. You get to a place where nobody knows you, nobody knows who you are, and none of your reputation or any of that follows you. So it's really a blank slate on your life. And I think a lot of people would benefit from that type of experience. I think there's a certain amount of benefit of being by yourself and especially traveling by yourself. There can also be a negative to that. I don't think it's good to go off and live like a hermit. Kind of getting sidetracked here, but is my life awesome right now? It's like perfect? Absolutely not. I'm 38 years old. I'm living at home with my parents. It's definitely not where I want to be, but I'm like way more content with where I'm at right now because I have done these travels. I feel like if I were in this situation and I had like, the last 10 years worked a job that I really kind of didn't want to be working, then I would be in a much darker place. So in that way, travel has changed my life in very good ways. I feel like it's made me a much more calm person. I'm just more easygoing, I think. Let me try to give you some more insight into who I was. I think just the personality was just a very immature person. I think I definitely developed very late as far as like maturity, and just kind of wanted to like get drunk, man. I don't want to say an alcoholic. I know there's people that have like really bad problems with alcohol. And, I definitely was the one that was probably way too drunk amongst my group of friends. That I'd say that's a very accurate thing to say. But I think when you're doing that, you're kind of doing something to yourself. You're doing something to who you are. And I don't know, man, I wish I could just like go back in time and just smack the shit out of myself, I kind of like despise alcohol now. It like steals a lot of people's youth. I made the decision to do that. So it's not like anybody forced me to drink or anything. It was my decision, and that's how I learned. That's how I became who I am today. So I know in reality, unfortunately, I can't go back in time and smack the shit out of myself. But man, I really wish I had the courage to start traveling when I was like 23. So there's a little bit of regret there and getting started late to travel. Late, like I say, you can travel at any age. One thing that's cool that I have learned, and I wouldn't have said that before, before I had traveled and actually met, older people traveling. I mean, you go to a hostel now in Europe and you meet somebody that's, in their 50s or 60s. It's not uncommon at all, especially on these long trails that I've done. There's a lot of like retirees or people just taking a gap year. Older people have been traveling for all of human history. And, I will continue to travel, but I'm definitely not going to be traveling as much for the foreseeable future, just trying to get my finances back in order and moving on with my life, getting over this autoimmune disorder thing. Has travel negatively affected you in any way? Sometimes I feel like I develop a very close relationship with somebody, and I know that it's a temporary thing. I'll meet somebody and travel with them for a little bit, even as short as like a few days, and then we just kind of like go off and go back to our home countries. And while we're friends on social media and we may text back and forth here and there, it's not like a friendship in the traditional sense. So that kind of makes it hard sometimes, and it can be kind of lonely, but it's also like, that's all on me, it's all up to me or you or somebody else that's traveling, like, to pursue a friendship and to really put in the work to develop it. But I think people that have done a lot of solo trips can relate to that in some way. You could construe that as a negative thing of solo travel, but it's all about, I guess, how you look at it. You can say that, this whole thing is temporary. This whole life, everything is just temporary. We're just here for a short amount of time, and I'm grateful for those experiences that I've had with all those people that I've met from all over the world. And it's changed how I look at the world for sure. When I hear about another country on the news, I'm not just thinking about where that country is on a map. I'm thinking about some of the people that I met in that country. There's just like so many stories that I could bring up, and I don't want to like bring up a bunch of them and get too sidetracked about it, but it's really changed. It's really changed how I see the world for sure. It's also changed how I view my time and money as well. I really value my own time, and if I feel like I'm not enjoying what I'm doing for work, then I'm way more likely to quit. That's just the truth. This is like a new thing for me with YouTube. I'm just trying to be more natural with it and stop making like these like very structured or scripted things and just kind of go off the cuff. But it's very much a skill. It's a lot more difficult than you think. I keep like just looking at this piece of paper, but there's only like 2 bullet points on it, and I'm just really just trying to like stay on topic. So how did these 10 years of travel change my life? I guess one thing I haven't really touched on is the focus that it required to make all these travels happen. Like I said in the beginning, I haven't been traveling for 10 years, but I've worked for those travels, and just really like staying focused and realizing that I wanted that life, that I chose it, and I worked to earn it. On a deeper level, I just feel like I have that something that's mine now. And before, I just felt like there was something missing. Try to just like keep myself humble. You think very highly of yourself now that you've done these things that anybody can go do. There's some of that probably. Man, we might just scrap this whole video. I just feel like I'm more at peace, with my life, and I'm just happy that I chose something that I wanted. I do want to say, like, if you're somebody that hasn't traveled, I'm not trying to like make you feel bad or try to act like I'm better than you because I have traveled. That's definitely not what I'm trying to do with this video. And really, you shouldn't be looking at people that are online and comparing your life with theirs. You're on your path, I'm on mine, and other people have their own path as well. So I'm just I'm just putting my thoughts on camera. Again, I'm not trying to act like I'm Mr. Perfect Life over here. I'm not, man. I'm 38 years old and I'm living with my parents. All right. My life definitely has its problems. I'm driving a shitty 30-year-old car, worried about going broke, not working. It's harder to find work for me. Traveling is not going to like fix your life. It's not like this thing where, you know, social media and all this stuff, they just show you like the best of everything. And there's like these edited clips. And I've done that. Like that's most of what my channel is as of right now. It's all, you can go back and look at my old videos. It's all like hiking footage set to music and like beautiful views. But there was a lot of like bullshit to get to those points that I had to put up with, you know, like shitty jobs, cramped bus rides, terrible hostels. I'm just trying not to sugarcoat anything or try to make anybody feel bad. I'm just putting my thoughts out on camera. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's so true. Definitely true. I don't know who said that, but what I try to focus on doing with this is comparing my life to my previous life before I started traveling and really just wanting to go back and smack the shit out of myself. That's such a cool thought. Is that common, man? Is that something wrong with me to want to go smack the shit out of myself? If you could go back in time, just imagine for 2 seconds, what would you say? Like, invest in Amazon, buy some Bitcoin, smack the shit out of him. I feel like I'm really like trying too hard with this fucking video. This is a topic that I really want to like get into. There's a lot that I have to say on it. It's just about trying to find the right words to lay it out in a better way. So I think what I'll do is I'll just call this one part 1, and then maybe at a later date after I hash over these ideas and really give it some more of my time to think about it, I'll come out with a part 2. I think that's probably the best way to go forward. Or maybe just like leave me some comments if there's anything that you want me to touch on, or if you feel like there's something that would help me spark an idea. I would appreciate that if you want to leave that in the comments. There's a lot of other things going on right now with my life. I'm trying to find work and get over this autoimmune thing, and this is just like still something I'm doing in my spare time, but it's also kind of like a fun thing for me to do. It's kind of like a hobby for me to like talk about this last decade of my life, which has been absolutely incredible. All right, everyone, we'll be on the lookout for part 2. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.